Hi, it's Destiny Kane here, and before I begin my speech, I want to give you a quick disclaimer that I come from a big family and it's hard to get everyone to be quiet, so if you hear any noise in the background, it's my family. So to start off my speech, I chose the topic of whether or not school uniforms should be mandatory in public schools or not. In my opinion, yes, they should be mandatory in public schools. A quote from Arne Duncan, U.S. Secretary of Education: "Children cannot get a quality education if they don't first feel safe at school." School uniforms should be mandatory in public schools because it can lessen the amount of bullying based on the clothing students wear to school and help students focus more on what they're learning and reduce the socio-economic competition within public schools. School uniforms decrease the amount of clothing-based bullying within public schools by in multiple ways. Bullying is defined as unwanted aggressive behavior that intimidates or coerces another person who is perceived as vulnerable. According to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, between 1 in 4 students and 1 in 3 students in the U.S. say they have been bullied at school. 160,000 kids per day skip school for the fear of being bullied, which is an astronomical amount of kids skipping school. I've dealt with bullying myself when I went to public school, hence why I am homeschooled now. When I was in middle school, my mom had lost her job and didn't have enough money to buy new school clothes for the first day of school. I remember dreading that first day of school because I knew that everyone else was going to be showing off their expensive new clothes and shoes from the top brands at school. I knew I was never going to have those things in my life because my mom simply did not have enough money. In my middle school, if you did not wear the newest and trendiest clothing, you were an outcast or a freak. These names not only hurt your self-esteem, but they also stuck with you throughout middle school and high school. Bullying has affected my life in so many ways. I used to love going to school, but as soon as I hit middle school and dealt with that situation, I hated school. I would try to skip school. I would come up with every excuse to stay home from school, which is sad because we should want to go to school and get our education. School uniforms can also help reduce the socio-economic competition within the ranks of public school. Economics is relating to or concerning with the interaction of social and economic factors within your family. If everyone is wearing the same thing, then you can't tell by outward appearances who has more or less money than one another. There won't be the competition of who has the newest and most expensive clothing. Students can become friends based on likes and interests instead of their economic status. I've seen this firsthand in my school especially. Since I was one of the poorer kids, I hung out with the poor kids. The rich kids, quote-unquote rich kids, did not want to associate with us poor kids. They treated us like we had a disease. It was really sad and really hurtful. Without the stress of what to wear to school, students can focus more on what they are learning. When I went to public school, I remember staying up really late every night to pick out my outfit for the next day of school, which resulted in me losing sleep. So the next day at school, I was less focused on what I was learning because I was more tired. I also remember those bad days where I knew I wasn't wearing a good outfit and not being able to focus because I was worried about what other people thought of me instead of my schoolwork. Throughout school, I was more worried about what other kids thought of my outfit instead of what I was learning. With school uniforms, that would take the stress of what to wear completely away. We would all be wearing the same thing, and nobody could be picked on for what they are wearing. School uniforms should be a requirement in public school. They help students focus more on what they're learning instead of what they're wearing. They help reduce the amount of clothing-based bullying and socioeconomic competition. In the end, what is more important to you? Students wearing what they want to school, or their emotional and mental health?